Welcome to Pathway to Peace with Terry McIntosh. I'm Gary Morris. This is a timely message in search of a positive truth that brings healing, peace, and safety to the individual as well as the entire nation.
Greetings, Saints. This is Terry McIntosh in for the next few minutes. Today we're going to talk about Zionism and what is it from God's perspective and what is it from man's perspective. In its basic form, Zionism is simply the Jewish pursuit of a homeland. And I, or no one with me, objects to that at all. As a matter of fact, we support the Jewish right to life. If you're new to our program, you can catch up with us by going to youtube.com. Write Pathway to Peace with Terry McIntosh in the YouTube search bar, and it should pull us up. That way you can review all of our programs, and I encourage you to do that. Understanding the foundation is critical to proper discernment. And this is episode number 12 in the series. And like I said, today we're talking about Zionism. We want to look at it from God's point of view and see if there's any difference between God's point of view and man's presentation of it. In order to do that, we need to step back in history about 70 years or so back to 1948 when the Jewish state founded the modern state of Israel. When the Jewish people did that, they appropriated the name Israel and set itself up as the voice of all the descendants of Israel, which we know now is not the whole complete picture, but is in the spirit of seeking a homeland for the Jewish people. And that's called Zionism in its basic form. By taking the name of Israel to themselves, they hid the existence of other Israeli descendants and plunged the mainstream of modern Christianity into darkness regarding the whole house of Israel. Now, in the Bible, God did not give all of the land to Judah, the Jews, as we call them, and them alone. To be clear, like I said, there's nothing wrong with the Jewish people wanting a homeland, but it doesn't belong entirely to them. Now, although we support the Jewish right to life and defend it, it does not mean that Palestinian Hebraic descendants of Israel are to be trampled on for the benefit of Jews. Hebraic Palestinians must be recognized for who they are and restored along with the tribe of Judah and those associated with him. According to the Jewish holy books, the original property allotments were assigned to 12 Hebrew tribes, and the name Jew did not exist at that point in time. The northern kingdom of Israel, the Ephraimites and those with him, the children of Joseph and those with them, now called today's Palestinians, they controlled everything north of Jerusalem to the sea. And Judah was assigned, of course, Jerusalem, Jericho, and parts south. Everyone had access to Jerusalem, especially for the feast. In more modern history, United Nations Resolution 181 recommended dividing up the land and partition most of it to the minority of people, that is, the Jewish people. And the Balfour Declaration clarified that no Palestinian rights would be violated. The Arab communities rejected the proposal, which rendered the UN recommendation invalid. Now, when we say Arab, we understand now that that is in the context of culture and religion. The majority of today's Palestinians are as much Hebraic as any Jew. Britain announced that it would accept the partition, but refused to enforce it because it was not accepted by the Palestinian or Arabs. Some Jewish organizations also opposed the UN's proposal. Menachem Begin, who would be a future prime minister of today's Israel, announced by saying, "The partition of the homeland is illegal. It will never be recognized. The signature by institutions and individuals of the petition agreement is invalid. It will not bind the Jewish people." Well, the Jewish authorities proceeded to declare the forced independence of the Jewish state on Palestinian territory without legal authority to do so when the partition plan was rejected. The modern state of Israel remains in defiance of international law and UN Resolution 242 that does not recognize land grab as a result of war. Now, Christian Zionists recognize it as God keeping a promise to Abraham. Now, that is what we're talking about today when we talk about Zionism. We're talking about a political state, the Jewish quest for a homeland. There are several sects of Judaism that reject the state of Israel and its name. They did it then, and they still reject it today. And they claim that Jewish restoration will come from the Messiah, not from a military force or might. They claim that Zionism is a foreign growth in the body of the Jewish people. The hope is that they will rid themselves of this foreign growth and remain pure before God. Those religious sects further objected to the state's use of religious symbols such as the menorah as the state symbol and usage of the name Israel. But they were overruled by the founding fathers. These Jews consider it hypocrisy and a perversion to have the Israeli army fight under an emblem whose meaning is explained in the Tanakh as not with armed force and not with power, but by my spirit, says the Lord of hosts. Now, Judaism is divided into different sects just like most other religious expressions of faith. The most famous of those are the Haredi. The most famous of those are the Haredi. It's a sect of Reformed Jews who isolates itself from the secular society and further splintered by internal differences. And although they are permitted to serve in the military, only a few ever do. Now, please excuse the mispronunciation of Jewish names here, but the Aqueduct Israel, that means the Israelite Union religious organization, was established as the political arm of traditional Jewish orthodoxy in 1912. They do not attach end time or religious significance to a natural state of Israel. They consider Zionism to be a serious threat to the traditional religious power structure that is far removed from our peers in the Christian Zionist movement. Another group known as the Naturai Karta is an extreme example of the Orthodox anti-Zionist parties. It's a small organization that broke off relations with Aqueduct Israel in 1935. They insisted on total separation from the Zionist Jewish community in Jerusalem. The name Naturi Karta is Aramaic for guardians of the city. They believe that religious scholars, not soldiers and a military power, are the true guardians of a city. They are very outspoken against the legitimacy of the Jewish state. They are against it. Other religious Jews opposing Zionism include the Satmar Hasidic sect. Generally speaking, these opposing sects to Zionism view a worldly state as contradictory to the true being of the people of Israel. They're waiting for God, who will, without human effort or force, grant the Jews a kingdom founded on divine commitment and not military might. They say that whoever calls natural Israel the salvation of Israel shows that he denies the essence of the people, and while substituting another nature, which is a secure state, is at the same time presenting a worldly, materialistic salvation. They further believe that true salvation for the people of Israel will happen once they draw close to the Creator. Organization and force of arms do not do this. Rather, it is done through adherence to the Torah and good deeds. We as Christians, of course, know that it can only come through Jesus Christ crucified on the cross. Regardless, these particular sects of Judaism believe that the Torah forbids them to end the exile and establish a state and army until God redeems the people. Every Jew is required to obey the Torah, and whoever fails to obey it automatically ceases to be a part of the congregation of Israel as far as they're concerned. So their view of Zionism is not today's political state, but they're waiting upon God to come and redeem the people and then create a state. And that's their definition of Zionism. Now, God's plan is different. It's not a new plan. It was revealed long ago before the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, and even longer before the 1948 birth of today's state of Israel. It's a beautiful plan, and God's vision of Zion outshines anything man has ever presented. Psalms 87 says, He has set His foundation on the holy mountain. The Lord loves the gates of Zion more than all the dwellings of Jacob. Glorious things are said of you, O city of God. I will record Rahab and Babylon among those who acknowledge me. Philistia and Tyre along with Cush, and will say, this one was born in Zion. Indeed, of Zion it will be said, this one and that one were born in her, and the Most High Himself will establish her. The Lord will write in the register of the peoples, this one was born in Zion. As they make music, they will sing, all my fountains are in you. End quote. Well, saints, apparently this spiritual Zion is more loved and more precious than any one race or nation, including the Jewish people, which is the dwellings of Jacob and Israel. The Lord loves the gates of Zion more than all the dwellings of Judah. This Zion of God represents the one new man that the Lord is in process of creating, and all to His great glory. It has naught, zero, to do with political Zionism as is expressed through a natural state. God's plan is greater than a political state. Now, this message isn't meant to be harmful to Jews. Contrary to that, it's a blessing to the whole house of Israel and the nations of the world, those saved by grace through Jesus Christ. That's God's point of view regarding Zionism. Hey, time's expired again. It goes so fast. But I want you to stay in touch with me by email. You can do that by writing info@usajourney.us. That's info@usajourney.us. Or text 270-217-0132. And of course, if you've just tuned in to us and want to catch up, you can find all of these messages posted on the YouTube station. You go to their search engine, put in Pathway to Peace with Terry McIntosh. It'll pull them up. You can review any or all of them and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss anything going forward. Got to go now. We'll be back here next week. Hope you can be here with us. In the meanwhile, God bless you. McIntosh out.
You can write us at Post Office Box 766, Paducah, Kentucky 42002, USA. That's Post Office Box 766, Paducah. That's spelled P-A-D-U-C-A-H, Paducah, Kentucky 42002, USA.